So in today's video, I'm going to be doing a trade recap from a trade that I took on Tesla Friday, December 17th. I did take 3 trades overall, but Tesla was the one that got me pretty red. I took a flag pattern, it failed, and I lost $1,365. This shows that I'm far from perfect. I would say for every 20 trades, I probably have 1 or 2 where I just kind of lose it. I let it get away from me a little too much, and that loss can be really big. It happens, and it's going to happen forever as long as I continue to trade. What I try to think of is let's not let those days become a complete disaster. There's going to be red days, and there's going to occasionally be the one that's a little bit bigger than I want, but I don't want that to spiral out of control and lead to massive losses. And then I know that if I don't think about it too much, obviously reflect on what I did wrong, but make sure to come in the next day, same process, same routine, take the same setups I always talk about with the technical levels, pre-market high, pre-market low, prior day high, prior day low, I should be able to get back on track pretty quickly. And that's what it's all about. So there are ups and there are downs. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, even though I show P&L on the prior videos, which is very nice, and it feels good to make money. There is a downside to that too. When those big days happen, it sucks, it doesn't feel good, but all I can do is deal with it and then just move on, not think about it too much, don't dwell, don't get down on myself, and then just be ready for the next trading day. So now let's get into the newsletter watch list. I was looking at Tesla, Nvidia, RBLX, RIVN, and Boeing. And I mentioned something in the mental notes that I didn't even do a good job myself of, so I broke my own rules. Options expiration today, and what I mean by that is quadruple witching. If you don't know what that means, Google it. But because of that, sometimes there can be really erratic and crazy price action on the day. So I knew that it was a day to approach with caution, don't overtrade, be careful, and you'll see that after the first 2 trades, I was flat. That would have been a good time to call it. And then I took 1 more trade because I wanted to be green. I saw a decent setup. I got a little stubborn holding it too long, and that led to going from flat on the day to decent red on the day. So this clearly shows that not only it happens to you if you're watching at home, but it also happens to me. I just do my best to not let it happen very often, but clearly I'm not perfect. Every now and then I slip up and make a mistake. So now let's go over the technical, starting with Tesla. So the prior day, that is a really nasty reversal candle. The 9 EMA ended up being resistance on the daily. I thought I could have some more downside follow through, but rather than being biased, just using the levels to make decisions, it was trading slightly lower in the pre-market. So I was looking at pre-market high to the upside and pre-market low to the downside. I was aware that there was resistance above from right around 930 to 940. So wasn't really excited about going long, but obviously if the price action tells me otherwise and I see an okay setup, I'll take the chance. And now Nvidia, so similar to Tesla, a really aggressive reversal candle, closed below the 9 EMA. I felt like if the overall market was weak, maybe you could get some more follow through to the downside, trying not to be too biased. The levels I was interested in, to the upside, pre-market high, to the downside, pre-market low. And now RBLX, and the reason why I liked this is because it felt like it was just barely hanging on to 93, and it had an open gap to the downside. So if it broke 93 and the overall market was weak, I felt like this really could get some selling pressure. And it actually broke 93 slightly in the pre-market, so the next level to the downside was going to be pre-market low, 92.35, and then if for some reason the dip wanted to get bought, which it kind of started to get bought up in the pre-market, it was going to be pre-market high, which was 96.04. I wasn't very excited about going long because there was resistance to the left, but just utilizing those levels. And now Rivian, and the reason why I was watching this is because it reported earnings. It had the gap down. 100 was major support on the daily. Also, IPO low was 95.20. And then pre-market low was right around 97. So if it started to take out those levels to the downside, I felt like this could get some selling pressure. And then if for some reason the dip wanted to get bought, the main level I was looking at to the upside was going to be pre-market high. And now Boeing, and the reason why I like this is because it's clearly in a downtrend. It's below the 9 EMA, below the 20 SMA. That was not a great candle the prior day. It's taken out the entire green candle the day before that. Knowing that this prior low support area was 188 and it had the gap down in the pre-market low was right around 188 as well. So that was going to be the main level to the downside. If it breaks 188, maybe it has more follow through to the downside. And then if for some reason the dip wants to get bought and it takes out pre-market high, that was going to be the main level to the upside, which was 191. And now let's get into the first trade, which is on Tesla, and check out this setup. This is my bread and butter. Opening range, had a big move to the upside, pulled back to VWAP, the 9 EMA, held those indicators, and now it's moving towards the high. So if it gets through this 930, takes out the high a day, I thought it looked pretty good to the upside, but I just botched this trade, which happens every now and then. It's hard to execute perfectly 100% of the time. I got a nice quick move. It pulled in a bit, and I got out for flat, Had I been just slightly more patient or I didn't get spooked out to the downside, this would have been a really nice win and would have been my one and done on the day. So it has some pretty nice buying off the VWAP and the 9 EMA. It's approaching high a day. I want to anticipate the break. So right before it breaks that high a day, I end up going long. I took 3 of the 930 calls and I got filled at $34.45. And then it has a really nice break. Gets through 930, 931, almost into 932. And then it ends up pulling back a little bit. And I'm not sure why. It could have been that it was Friday. I was having a good week up to this point. I just got a little spooked out. It started to pull back and I ended up getting out of the trade and I sold those contracts at $34.60 for a very small win. And here's the chart after the fact. I know hindsight is 20/20, but once it cleared that high a day, it did pull back a little bit. It wasn't super clean, but it eventually cleared it, caught a bit of momentum, and look at this nice move after the fact. And now the next trade is going to be on Rivian to the downside. So what did it do off the open? Look at this aggressive move lower, had a bounce to VWAP, could not get over it. And it's below the VWAP now and the 9 EMA. Check out that flag pattern. If it breaks 95, I thought it had a chance to go lower. And I think I did a good job on this trade. So I want to anticipate the low a day break or that flag break. So I end up going short right there. I took 3 of the 95 puts. And the reason why I think I managed risk on this well is because now that it's at that 95 and check out the bid, there is some size there. So now I just want to see this break quick. And this is going to be that kind of play where I want to see it break quick and then I want to see it stay below. If it starts to bounce back above it, that could have been a fake break. I don't know how far it's going to go the other way. That quickly reclaimed 95, it starts to go against me. And I do not want to be involved in a bounce against me. And it is going against me right now. It did not go quick. So I get out of the trade and I sold those contracts at $5.50 for a small loss. And now the third and final trade on Tesla, and this is the one that got away from me and ended up being a big loss. So I had to push off the open, pull back to the 9 in the VWAP, made a new high a day, nice follow through. And now it looks like it's forming a flag pattern. Above the 9 EMA, above the VWAP. So if it gets to right around that 940, I want to anticipate the flag break high, and then I'd like to see some quick follow through. It ends up getting to that 940. It does not follow through quick. And instead of getting rid of the position, I think I was a little frustrated because I could not get a lot going up to this point, and I held this for a lot longer than I should have. So it held the 9 EMA. It's coming up to that 940. I have the 940 calls loaded. I end up going long 3 of them right there. I'm not sure why, but the order is in the middle of these. But just to be very clear, I got long 3, and I got them for $33.20. And then it comes up into that 940 and it starts to reject immediately. This is where I should have just got out of the trade. But just like everybody else, sometimes I can be stubborn. I can hold things for longer than I need to. And this is a really good example of that. If it doesn't follow through immediately, I need to just get out of the way. And instead, I held it and took a big loss. And I was in this trade for 7 minutes, which I know doesn't sound long, but for me, that's a long time. My average hold time is right around 2 to 3 minutes. So because I held this for twice as long than the average, that's why the loss was big. So I should have been out of this when it broke the 9 EMA. And you can see I started drawing support lines thinking that, all right, well, maybe if it can hold these, then it could go higher, kind of that hope trade. And then what happens is it's very clearly below the 9 EMA. And if it starts to break the low of those prior candles, I do not want this to be bigger than it already is. This is not a good trade. And I end up selling those contracts right there at $28.80. And even though it totally sucked, when I look at the bigger picture, this is where I got out. Had I been patient and I was even more stubborn than I already was, look at this huge move lower. Had I held through that, the loss would have been massive. Now let's go check out the P&L. Before that trade, I was flat on the day, let that one get away from me, and ended up down $1,365. Sucks, but it is what it is. Welcome to trading. There's always going to be ups and downs. So that was the trade recap. Appreciate you watching the video. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. I just wanted to highlight a couple cool things I have to offer. The first is going to be my newsletter watch list. This is going to be what I post on my private Twitter 30 minutes before market open every day. And what I'm doing is I'm doing a very quick highlight of the SPY, the Qs, the bigger picture, the upside level that I'm looking at, the downside level that I'm looking at, the market news or the catalyst that day. And then I'm going to list 4 to 6 names that I'm watching, my favorites that day, and then the catalyst behind them if there's any news, the bigger picture idea, what's going on the daily chart, and then the levels to the upside and the downside. And then I add some mental notes at the bottom, kind of what I'm thinking that day, make sure to keep my expectations in check and follow my process. And the second thing is going to be a one-on-one call. So if you want something that's less of a commitment and you just want to talk to me about my process and how I approach the market, this is going to be great. It's a one-on-one live call for 1 hour. So So if you're interested in any one of these two things, there will be links in the description below. Feel free to check them out.